So, I don't know why this happens every year. At least one of these videos ends up not being recorded properly. I don't fucking understand what's wrong. But, this this was initially recorded, obviously with Masami and I, and for some reason, only my audio was recorded, not hers. And then whatever, 45 minutes into us just like chatting and talking and stuff, it glitches and stops recording. So I just hit record again. But apparently, that last two thirds that I recorded, no audio was recording. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I didn't do anything different from when I did the best of. I don't know what the fuck happened. So anyway, let's do this. The worst movies of 2024. I guess you'll just have to hear my quick commentary. No additional fun commentary from my bestie Masami. So yeah, the worst list is oddly enough a shorter list than the best list, which is a good thing. It's usually not the case. I'm usually scrambling and kind of like nudging movies in there to be like, let's put this in the best list. Let's even do honorary mentions. I don't have any of that this year because we got a lot. Anyway, so we have five different categories. We have horror, comic book slash video games, Christmas, action, and musical music. So first with action, we have The Beekeeper and Rebel Moon Part 2. The Beekeeper it's dumb. It's just Jason Statham in his own John Wick movie. Like, granted, the premise of this story is a little like not better, but just kind of like interesting because it's like, okay, he's going after scammers. We fucking can't stand scammers. Like, even if you don't get scammed, just the fact that someone is like sending you some mysterious text or email or even mail or whatever shit, you're just kind of like, you're annoying. Get the like fuck off. Or the spam calls you get all the time. My god, literally there was one day I had gotten like 10 phone calls and the numbers were like it was like da 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 da, and it's like you know 1004, and then the next one was like 105, and they literally went down the numbers and like called me from 10 different numbers, and like individually I had to block them. It's like fucking insane. Like, I have all that fucking time, right? Anyway, so you went after scammers. It's a fun dumb movie to like just put on, but it's not, again, it's fun dumb but not fun dumb enough to like be like, oh, I would put it on again. You know what I mean? This isn't like, like some Michael Bay movies, like, where you're like, yeah, boom, explosion, fuck your. It's just like, oh God, I watched it once, I'm not watching it again. And funny enough, a lot of Statham movies are kind of like that, where you're like, yeah, that was fun. And then you're like, what happened? I don't know. You know? And after that is Rebel Moon Part 2. I think there's going to be a third version for some reason. A third part. I don't know. Netflix gave Zack Snyder a bunch of movie, and he's like, I'm finally gonna get my Star Wars script made. It's so fucking dumb, and it's so crazy that he had mentioned, he had said on the Joe Rogan podcast of all things, he said that, oh yeah, more people, like you take the numbers from the Netflix, views, and put that to movie sale tickets, more people viewed Rebel Moon than they did Barbie. Bitch, what? First of all, Netflix changed like their viewing number thing like years ago. It used to be where you had to at least watch like I think 70-75% of the thing before it counted as a view. Now it's like if you watch within the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, it counts as a view. So with your horrible shitty movie, usually people would usually kind of go about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes at max into it before they turn it off because it's shit. I'm insanely brain broken, so I sit through all of it. Remember, I sat through 4 hours of that fucking, Justice League recut fucking thing, and you could see in that review per hour as I freaking, review it, you could slowly see me like, become a shell of a person, It's bad. It's, again, you see things, you go, oh man, this is, like, this is him trying to do Empire Strikes Back. There's a scene where a Jaimon Hanzo is like, working a field. That felt weird. That was very weird to witness. It's like, wow, um, I don't know about that, you know? Like, maybe I'm the friend who's too woke, but also it's like, that doesn't, something about that don't feel right. I don't know, man. And like so much, like there was like a 40-minute chunk of the movie where it's just farming, you know, or you gotta, you know, make the crops and the harvest and and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, remember, it's kind of like Star Wars. Hold on, so the bad guys coming, or it's Star Wars again. All right, yeah. It was just like, who cares, dude? Who cares? And then the fact that because it's on a streaming service, whatever, when I went to go click on part two, they're like, hey, there's extended version of part one. Ugh. And then there's also we don't need extended version. We don't need extended versions of these movies. We do not need to. They don't even need to exist. We don't need this shit. So next is musicals or slash music. It's Mean Girls, The Greatest Story Never Told, or whatever the fuck, and then Amelia Perez. Mean Girls, like, I love the Mean Girls movie. When it first came out, I didn't care for it because I was in high school. Lindsay Lohan and I are the same age. When the first Mean Girls movie, the movie came out, I was in high school. So I didn't watch or care for it because it's like, well, I'm living through it, so I don't want to watch it, you know? It wasn't until I got into like college that I finally watched it and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty funny, you know? And then there was like that random like in name only sequel that came out that I have a review on it somewhere here. And then after, yeah, and then I think in the midst of it, in between like the original movie and then the random sequel, there was a musical on Broadway. And I think I remember seeing that when I was in school, being like, there's a Mean Girls bro. Anyway, and then it's just like moving on with my day because you're in college and your brain is, there's only so much you can handle. And this movie is a movie that's based on the musical that's based on the movie. And I'm not for that. I'm not for that. Like, they should have just like, you know, done like a what do you call that? What's it called? Like a pro recording of the stage. Then I would go for that because you could see the stage, you could see how like they do the whatever stuff, and it's a musical version. Then that's fine. I would have went for that, you know, like when they did the pro shot of Hamilton or whatever, you know. But if you turn that into a movie because it originally was a movie, and then you just add musical elements in it, you know, and it also just felt like because of like the casting of the characters, it just felt like this is the woke version of it. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It just felt like we're gonna wokeify it. Like, I don't know. It's like it's the DI version of Mean Girls. Like, I'm not for it. Like, the music was fine. The singing was all right. The singing was, it was like the little vast difference, you know, where you got the girl who was like in the Lindsay Lohan character where she's like, I'm singing, kind of like I do, you know, I do stage it. And then you got the Regina George girl who I didn't know until I watched the movie that she's a pop star, you know, because I don't really listen to music like that. And she's like, I'm Regina George. Oh my God. Like that very like, I'm about to come, like breathy baby voice, Britney Spears kind of way of singing. Because it was just like, when she first came out, she's like, Regina George. I was like, oh, girl, okay, we don't need to be that sexual. You're in high school. That's weird. You know, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, she's a pop star. Okay, that's why she's singing that way. And that's why her singing is vastly different from her also singing, you know? So, again, like also, oh, what's her name? Who was like Moana? She was in it. I mean, she can sing, so I was like, all right, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, like it didn't need to be. Again, if it was just like a pro shot of the musical, like you get like the original cast and like just do like a one-off thing, film it, I would have been fine with that. But like to then like put in a movie, because then it confused like a a bunch of us. Because I remember seeing like Mean Girls, and I was like, wait, did they remake it? And then it doesn't say Mean Girls the musical, so that's also what confused me. And then I was just like, what is this? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna end up watching it because I watched all the other versions of it. And then literally I go to like put it on, and I always, you know, have IMDb open, you know, and then it's like, oh, based on the like, you know, I looked at the trivia, and it's like based on the musical, it's based on, and I was like, huh? And then of course the movie starts, and it's like da 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 da, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Next is The Greatest Story Never Told, which is the J-Lo docu thing, the one that everyone kept memeing, where she did the whole like, this is, you know, how I used to wear my hair when I used to run the block in the Bronx. And it's like, girl, shut the fuck up, you know? And I said it on my letterbox, which is I wish I had like 1 iota, 1 ounce of like delusion that she has. So I probably wouldn't have the amount of fucking, imposter syndrome that I have, because Jesus fucking Christ, lady. Again, on one hand, I'm like, God, like she's very famous because she believes she's that great, but oh my God, like we're just gonna dial that down. Yeah, so that whole documentary was about like some kind of movie, music movie thing. Best way I could describe it's kind of like Beyonce's Lemonade kind of thing, where she wanted to do something like that, and it was playing with the whole like, oh yeah, like I've married so many times, so she was able to like make fun of herself, fine, you know, but also the fact that it wasn't like they filmed it, and then I guess I forgot, it was like whether she could find distribution or whatever, anyway. And like Ben Affleck's in it, and he's like typing up a script and just looking just the most depressed man ever, with his Dunkin' Donuts, because you still gotta get your sponsors out there. And so, oh, and the fact that J Lo kept referring him as Poppy for like every little thing, he'll like type something and she'll like be like this, looking at his laptop, and she's like, "Oh my God, Poppy, that's so good," and I'm like, "Girl, no, no." Anyway, so yeah, and then the last one in the musical music thing is Amelia Perez. Oh my fucking God. So Masami and I had spoken about Amelia Perez like a little bit before we filmed this, because we had hung out prior, and I had like just recently at the time just watched the movie. And pretty much I was in the car and I put on the vaginoplasty song for her and Paul, because I was like telling them like, dude, it's terrible, it's transphobic, da da da. And I literally started singing. I was like, man to woman, woman to man. And they were like, both like, they're like, we believe you, but we also feel like you're exaggerating. Because I do. I tend to juice things up. So then I was like, hold on. Pulled it up on my phone while we're in the car. And yeah, vaginoplasty. Yes, like, oh my God. Girl, no, girl, bye. Like, it's not, like, no, it's terrible. And the fact it's nominated for like 13 Oscars, which is so fucking insane. But the upside is because the lead actress, sadly enough, the trans woman, has the controversy of her with her horrific tweets, So a lot of the awards that they were initially awarded with, they're not winning as much now as, award season is happening. So hopefully in a week or so, when it is, not a week, no, yeah, in a week or so, when it's the Oscars, it's probably just, they're probably just gonna get the award to Zoe Saldana, and nothing else. It's like, girl, you're gonna be in a movie, like get a new account, delete that one, or I don't know, scrub through. Girl, anyway, so the next on is Christmas, and it's the movies I watch for the Christmas rom-com. It's 3 out of the 4 of them, because one of them came out in 2021. So I usually, like I said, I usually do movies that are made this year, but sometimes certain things like Christmas at a Ranch, which is like, oh, it's lesbians, you gotta do it, it's hilarious. So anyway, for the Christmas ones, we have A Christmas Dream, Christmas Wonders, and Hot Frosty. Now, Christmas Dream, as when I streamed it, most of it was just like, there's no score or music, but like, behind. So the whole movie was just fucking room tone. There were so many times where I kept thinking like, is it my tinnitus? You're just like hearing that. And then also one of the notable things is like, when like the love interest guy shows up, I took like a minute and a half to be like, wait, is this the guy? Because you're just thinking like, oh, she's going to Italy, she's gonna meet probably like a hot Italian guy. Instead, she meets like boring guy who's like actually from Texas, but he now lives in Italy and has a farm, because everyone has a farm in that movie, because that makes sense. There's like 4 people in the cast, you know what I mean? Anyway, so that. Then it's Christmas Wonders. And I could give this movie a little bit of points, because your 2 main leads aren't like conventionally like thin. The lead is also like not white, and it's like, okay, that's different. But also, it's like the same shit where it's like, oh, Like, of course it's like, oh, I'm a travel blogger. They're always like, nowadays a lot of like the stuff, it's not just like, oh, like the woman is always in publishing. Like I had a bingo card throughout the entire time I was watching each one of these, because it's like, you got the tropes and all that stuff, and it's awful. And so yeah, this one, she's like a travel blogger and she's dating some guy, but she doesn't know if they're really like what their status is. Fine. And then she goes home and it's like the guy that's like friends with her brother, and she's like, oh my god, it's you, it's the guy, and he's like a big boy, flannel and beard and stuff, kind of lumberjack kind of vibes to him. And she's like, oh my god. And then of course her actual boyfriend, it's complicated, shows up and he's like, hey babe, here to save you. And then she's like, oh, but the small town made me rethink about things. Like, God, no, just no, just no. And then after that's Hot Frosty, which is the one where Dustin Mulligan is like the snowman who gets brought back to life, because that's the plot, literally, And the movie, like, again, I'll give points to this movie because it knew it was cheesy and campy. It knew what it was. It knew that it was stupid. It played along with it, but even then, it was still fucking aggravating and annoying. And the only times I've actually laughed, like, with the movie, like the movie made me laugh instead of me laughing at the movie, it was mainly because of the two actors from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, guy who played Boyle in the Pontiac Bandit. Like, the two of them are very funny guys. So, and you could tell a lot of their shit was freaking ad-lib, so it was hilarious. But everyone else, it was just like, I can't, like, I can't. Even Dustin, who's like a really funny guy, like, it was like, dude, Anyway, so next is comic book / video games. We have Madam Web, Craven, Joker 2, The Crow, and Borderlands. As I said in my review, Madam Web is better than Morbius, which doesn't say much. It's shot like very well, for a shitty movie. Like, I remember someone had compared, like, oh, this is like the third Spider-Man movie, Tom Holland Spider-Man, Far From Home, whatever it is, and then this is like a shot from Madam Web, and it's like the color grading is good, the lighting. I was like, wow, yeah, damn, okay. And it's just also like, I think Dakota Johnson has like fired her agent or left her agent, something, like she's pissed because she was probably told like, hey, you're gonna be in a Marvel movie. She probably thought, fuck yeah, MCU. And then realized, no, I'm in like a Sony Pictures Presents Marvel fucking shit. And she's like, what? And it's like, oh my God. And you could tell, like, I probably mentioned this in my review, it was very phoned in by her, but again, I get that paycheck girl. I mean, again, my knowledge of her is just like 50 Shades and then this. So she seems very like kind of, one, she's a Nepo baby, and two, just very dead. Not behind the eyes, she's just dead, so her acting is very wooden. But again, it could be better. It could be like a Kristen Stewart thing where like you're just not, this person just isn't getting the good materials, like Robert Pattinson, where like if you're getting good material, get a good, anyway. Next is Craven, which Craven is worse than Madam Web, but still better than Morbius. And I didn't even realize that this was a Marvel thing because the name Craven just didn't hit the brain, and Masami had mentioned that it was like they were really just like, digging in a bag for like, these like characters, it's like, oh yeah, this exists, let's make a whole fucking movie, and people have no idea how it's attached to other things, and literally I didn't even realize it was like a current day movie. I thought it'd be like a period piece because every picture I saw of Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's in like the fur and all that stuff, and I thought it was like some kind of fucking like, I don't know, like medieval or whatever fucking movie. And then like I looked on IMDb and saw like, oh, Christopher Abbott's like, in this movie. I'm like, I love me some Christopher Abbott. And then I was like, oh, what does he look like? And it's just like him in like a turtleneck. I went, wait, what is this? Wait, this is current time? Wait, hold on, I'm confused. And then I actually had to look up Craven, the comic book character, and when I saw him, I went, oh, that, like, because I wasn't it. Because Aaron Taylor Johnson's still kind of Quicksilver in my head a little. So I was like, wait, that, oh right. Okay, that's the character. So yeah, the CGI wolves and all that shit. Oh my god, it was just terrible. And again, like, just I only watched it because I wasn't gonna watch it, but then when I realized it was a Marvel thing, I was like, oh well, I gotta watch it. I watched all the other fucking Marvel things. Anyway, so next is the second Joker movie, and Masami actually watched this. Her boyfriend like didn't want to watch it, so she's like, all right, I'm gonna watch it. And she had mentioned she watched it with a bunch of other people, and I said, yeah, I wouldn't expect you to watch these things by yourself. Not everyone does what I do and just suffers through horrible movies by themselves, you know. We were both talking about how like we both agreed that like a good like probably like the first half or whatever movie, it seemed to be interesting with the whole like, okay, the musical numbers, it's in his head, da da da, like fine, right? Because I initially was like, how the fuck are you gonna go from a movie that was pretty much a copy of Taxi Driver and Kings of Comedy to like a musical thing? Like, how do you just make that switch? Okay, fine, it's in his head. Like he's like in love with her because again, it's in his head. Fine, we kind of saw that in the first one, because there's like the scene where he sees Ozzy and then he like makes out with her, and like I remember everyone in the theater were like, oh hell no. And it's like, yeah dude, it's in his head, but okay fine. But then like once like the La La Land shit kind of dissipated and all that stuff, and you got some exposition on certain things, so there were like some parts where like they're in the mental hospital, then like Gaga was like on the street watching something on TV, and you're like, what the fuck? And then not like, and then there was like another random musical number, and then so there was like 10 minutes later, then they were like, oh yeah, she's just a rich kid, she didn't have to be in there, she checked herself out. I'm like, thank you movie for telling me later, because I was there like, why is she out on wait, is this a continuity, like is this something wrong? Wait, and it's like, cool, thanks for letting me know later. Yeah, once all that, like pretty much once she left the mental institution, and the rest of the movie was a fucking courtroom drama. And Masami, like, she pointed out, she was like, why was there only like 2 to 3 shots in that courtroom? She was like, why were they, she said it felt like a sitcom where everything was like, it's like a 3-wall kind of set where everything, all the cameras had to face this one way, even if it's like a different shot. There was no shots like this. And I said, that's kind of, it's funny because if they would have done the reverse shot, the windows that they were shooting towards would have been great lighting. But I guess fine, whatever. Again, I'm not getting that, all that big money and directing movies. I'm just some asshole, who's constantly, shaking a change cup and asking people to freaking buy my art. So, what the fuck do I know? Yeah. So next is The Crow. I've said a lot in my review about it, to the point where I had gotten several comments from people telling me that I'm wrong, and having people tell me that no, this is not a remake. This is like a continuation of the story. If you would have, watched the other movies in the TV show and read this compendium book, you would understand. And it's like, girl, no, girl, no, goodbye. No. Anyway, last is Borderlands, and Masami didn't see the movie, but when she went to San Diego Comic-Con, she saw a lot of the, ads and stuff for it. And that's where I first heard of it too. I wasn't at San Diego Comic-Con, but obviously news comes out. And I remember seeing a picture of the cast and being like, is that Kate Blanchett? Is that Jamie Lee Curtis? Kevin Hart? Like, huh? You're kind of like, this is a range of, actors for a movie that you wouldn't think, huh? Mind you, I've never played the games. But you know how when you don't really know the source material, but you can tell what you're seeing is not the source material? That's how this movie felt. Like, again, I love Kate Blanchett, but I was like, I don't think this role was meant for you, And mind you, I would love to see Kate Blanchett in more like action. It's like when Charlize Theron, like hit her 40s and she just started doing action movies. Like, oh my god, when she did Atomic Blonde, like, like that kind of shit, like, go ahead, like do that shit, kick ass, because Kate Blanchett kicks ass, I'm all for that. But yeah, then like, what was it, like the Jamie Lee Curtis is in the movie as just like just Jamie Lee Curtis. Kevin Hart playing the straight man, but being funnier than Jack Black's character, which is like, bootleg Rocket Raccoon. And he's supposed to be the funny guy, And then they got the abs guy, which is funny because like you can tell in a few shots that like they makeup contoured his abs, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just really funny that like it was like a shot where he was kind of like 3/4 and you could just see the contour. It was just so funny. But yeah, like, again, I don't know the games like that, but like visually, it looks like the game. Visually, from what I know from seeing the game, it looks like the game. But out of that, I don't. I'm like, so I'm looking at this. I'm like, there's no way this is the story of the game because it's such a beloved game. You know, that it's like I don't know. I haven't. I should play like the Telltale one because I don't have time to play games, and Telltale seems to be the only type of games I have the time and energy to play. But yeah, that was no good, and I don't think any of those people like promoted the movie. Like, I think I still follow Jack Black. I don't think I follow any of those other people. Does Kate Blanchett have social media? Um, but I don't think any other people like promoted it. You know, so it's like, like you know when you're in a bad movie. Anyway, the final category is horror. You know, it's and we have Imaginary, Baghead, The Strangers Chapter 1, Night Watch 2, whatever the subtitle is, Tarot, the Deliverance, Carved, Winnie the Pooh 2, The Watchers, Trap, and Mousetrap. Now, Imaginary, again, I have a full ass review on it. And it's dumb. It's the whole like, oh, our child sees something and it's probably an imaginary friend, but it's really a demon, yada yada. You just check off the boxes of what what the story's gonna be. Then it's Baghead, which I think I also have a review on. And it's again like, there's something in the basement. You shouldn't go in the basement. Oh, there's something with a bag on its head in the basement. Oh, you pulled the bag off the thing in the basement that you weren't supposed to do. Oh my god. Who could have thought? Like, it's stuff like this that like when you tell people you're a fan of horror, they're like, oh, and they only think about like horrible, like terrible shit like this. They're like, oh god, you like that? And it's like, oh yeah, okay. No, I like good horror. This is like the, you know what I mean? It's like, After that is The Strangers Chapter 1, which is like the third installment in the Stranger series. And like, I started to write notes about the movie and I was gonna do a review, and I guess like the movie just got boring after a while that I just like didn't write any more notes, nor did I do a review, which I thought was pretty funny. I watched the movie and I was like, again, it's like how I always say with stuff like the later Saw movies or, Final Destination, all that stuff, where, you don't really care about the characters. You just want to see how they die, you know? And that's pretty much what this movie was. I was like, how is this couple gonna get, killed in this home invasion thing? Yeah, so I wrote notes and I wrote, why would you kiss while on the road, dumbass? So I'm guessing they're driving, they kiss. Then I wrote, the editing is terrible. They drive past the diner, then take a left and park at the diner. I'm like, yeah, that was weird. Because, like, you see, like, the diner, and then they go, and they're like, oh, wait, a little, yeah. And then I wrote, the fridge light is on, but the fridge is out. Okay. Quote, unquote, the subway at 2 a.m. is way safer than some small town shit. I mean, yeah. I said, it's a mouse, Jesus Christ. So I'm guessing a mouse had shown up and everyone was like, ah! I hate that. In all caps, I wrote, God fucking damn it. Of course he trips and drops his inhaler. Because of course, like, that's, like, the thing. There's always the thing of, like, oh, my phone was on 1%. And I put it on to charge, but then somehow it got knocked over and was slid under the bed. And that's the only communication to the outside world. Like, that kind of, like, I wrote, crying because you killed a home invader, boo fucking who, bitch. Probably because, like, yeah, she probably killed one of the people, and then she's like, I can't. I'm like, girl, you survived. Like, all right, do it again, because it's always 3 people. It's always like a guy and 2 girls kind of stuff. I wrote, oh no, not a Ford. I think because there's one part where there's like a pickup truck, and I was like, oh god, no, not a Ford. Then it was flip phone in the woods, ellipses, good luck, bitch. So I'm guessing she found a flip phone or something. I don't know. Then in all caps, I wrote loud crinkling plastic. I guess it's like she was trying to hide. It was just, And then the last thing I wrote is, why didn't he shoot her? What the fuck? So yeah, that's apparently how I felt about, Strangers. It was not a good movie. After that is Night Watch 2. And this is like a sequel, like 20 something years later. The original starred, what's his name from Game of Thrones? And, he takes a night watch job at like some morgue thing. He's got to, make sure everything's fine, all the spooky ooky stuff. And that first one was like really interesting. They even did like an American remake with it. Oh, I guess you would say an English speaking remake of it because it's from Denmark. With Ewan McGregor, and that was also like really good, even like as a remake. I mean, they kind of did it beat for beat, so it was like, all right, it's fine. But the second one is supposed to be like, oh, it's his daughter, and now she's taken that job, and blah blah blah. But it's like you can't like it's like the whole thing with sequels where it's just like, oh well, again, we're just repeating and it's the formula, that kind of stuff, and there's nothing different. It's just like, okay, people got older and it's a different character, oh, it's not him anymore, it's his kid. Oh, it's like this, exhausting. After that is Tarot, and my god. So this movie, like, I don't even think they know what tarot cards are or what they think, and I'm not like the biggest bitch on that kind of stuff anyway. I kind of make like, I make parody ones, but that's a whole other thing. And so like it's a bunch of college students, they rent a fucking house, like this big mansion, because apparently that's, you can rent that for $1 or something. And then they're walking around and they're like, hey, why is this door locked? And it's like, oh, it's to the basement. They're like, well, I rented this place, I should be able to go in every room. It's like, okay, Tiffany. So they break it open, they go to the basement, and then they fucking, you know find a box. Inside the box is the tarot cards, and then the girl grabs like a freaking, like, like a mat that has like a sigil on it, and then she starts like freaking being like, this is your card, it means that. I mean, again, I think I did a review on this, but it was just so dumb, and it becomes like Final Destination, like, oh, whatever card you have is like the way you're gonna die, and it's like, oh my god, that kind of stuff. Who cares? It's stupid. I guess you could like watch it with your friends and laugh at it, but like, oh my god. And again, this is like what people, if they're like, oh, you like horror? Like, that movie was stupid. And you're like thinking about like the horror movies you like, you're like, ah, rip by the, anyway. After that is The Deliverance, and that one has Glenn Close in with like the most like shake and go bus driver wig on, and she definitely is like the meme of like how a white woman dresses when she has mixed kids, because she is definitely that character who has mixed kids. And it's just so funny. I remember being like, what is that wig? What is the wigometry that is happening here? But like, the reason why the wig is obviously a wig is because her character has cancer. So like, okay, so I let that go. And apparently, like, there's a demon again in the home, and we gotta blah blah blah. Now my kids are possessed. Oh no, my baby's my baby. Oh no, CPS is coming. Oh, my baby, right? And then like, whatever. It just stupid, and you're just watching Glenn Close play like some kind of weird character you've never thought of her playing, and you're like, sure, why not? But there's like this one part at the end where Glenn Close's character, her cancer is coming back. She's dying, no wig. She's got like 3 hairs on the top of her head, and she's like in bed, like in the hospital bed, possessed, and she's like, ah. She looks at the main character, who's her daughter, and is like, I can smell your pussy from here. Girl, what? No. What? Glenn Close? What was that? Huh? So that was fucking hilarious. I was just like, I can't. Thank you. But that made me laugh out loud when that happened. But again, obviously not good movie. After that is Carved. I think this is like a Halloween based movie, something about pumpkins. I don't remember much about it. I just gave it like a 1.5 stars. Anthony Starr's in that movie, the guy who's Homelander. He plays the dad, so him playing like crazy-eyed man. Wow, never thought of that before. Of course, he's brunette in here. He has his normal hair. I remember I mentioned that, and Masami was like, oh, it's crazy eyes. I'm like, yeah. And so there's no way for you to think like, oh wow, he's not a bad guy, because she's like, all that stuff. It's not good. I don't remember what it is. Something about pumpkins. There's a child. Anthony Starr's in it. I think if Anthony Starr wasn't in the movie, this probably would have a lower rating. Just because I'm a fan of him. After that is Winnie the Pooh 2. The horror movie, and it's stupid. It's bad. You could tell they had a better budget this time because the masks were a lot better. Like the wardrobe costumes were a lot better. Some of the props were a little bit better. Other than that, story wise, meh. Like nothing else was. It wasn't good. It still wasn't good. It still didn't make you go like, oh yeah, this is Winnie the Pooh, but horror. It was just kind of like, it was one of those things. I think someone on Letterboxd said, like, I know they don't own the IP anymore, but can Disney sue this? Like, just so we don't have to see any more of this? Because I think they're going to keep making more and more of this. And sadly, I'm going to keep watching it. I'm part of the problem. I understand. Um, After that is The Watchers, which is Shyamalan's Shyamalan's daughter's movie. I have a review on this as well, where it was just like an interesting concept. It was shot very well, like, lighting and all that stuff. It was shot very well, but, because it's a Shyamalan movie, there's a twist, like that kind of stuff. And it wasn't very interesting. And once, like, the twist came, which I had already guessed it very, early on, because it says Shyamalan, maybe because it's, you kind of know. Um, and so, yeah, that wasn't that great. Again, especially once the twist happens and the whole thing where it's like, oh no, then those little creatures can't cross the water because I don't know. Like, I think Masami made a joke about like, I just bought these new shoes, so you can't get in the water. Really mad that the footage like didn't record audio for some reason. It stopped recording audio because we said a lot of funny things. I'm very mad, but after that is Shyamalan's movie, Trap, which I think I also did a review on. Um, you know, it's funny enough, his other daughter is like the freaking, pop star in the movie. And a lot of people on Tumblr were making jokes saying like, oh my God, like the pop star from Trap and the pop star from Smile 2, like they would have been like rival pop stars in a universe, It would have been like, I don't know, Gaga and Katy Perry. I don't know. I can't Brittany and Christina. There you go. I was like, what's like a rivalry kind of, fake rivalry. Anyway, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, like the Trap thing, it was like, it wasn't very good. Like I had said, like Josh Hartnett just like acted his ass out. Of course, in like that third act, randomly he's shirtless. Like, we don't know why, but thank you, because I think he even said, he was like, oh, just giving the audience what they wanted. It's like, I didn't think I wanted that, but now I'm thank you for that. You know, so yeah, and then the final thing in this whole fucking thing is Mousetrap, which is the super dumb indie movie that came out for the Steamboat Willie thing. I think there's an other Steamboat Willie movie because I remember seeing it look like Steamboat Willie, and then he looks like fucked up looking, and but this isn't it. I think that movie still is coming out because they're probably taking their time to make it. This movie probably like they had the script, they had everything, and they were like waiting for like January 1st to hit, and then they were like, let's start filming. This one was like in an arcade, and like the fucking like owner guy has like this Mickey mask, and then some killer puts it on and then starts killing everyone that works at the arcade, and it's so stupid. And then there's like the whole thing where like they showed like the lighting setup in the shot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for aesthetic lighting, but if you're aesthetic lighting, you see like the fluorescent tubes of like blue and yellow and whatever. It's like, dude, like, why are you? It's like showing your main character walking through something and there's like a fucking string quartet behind them. Like, yeah, you're not supposed to see the score. It's like, what the fuck is that all about? But yeah, so that was the worst movies of 2024, and I really need to, I don't know, figure out a way where this doesn't keep happening every year I do this. Something always happens. Whatever redundancies I run through, it always just like, well, no, as redundant as we're gonna make things, we're gonna not have it work no matter what. But anyway, yeah, so that was it. I'll get back to watching this year's movies now and all that stuff. Bye-bye.